Manchin says an energy package needs to support the production of fossil fuels as well as renewable energies. Manchin has scheduled 2 more meetings next week with the bipartisan group to hash out a compromise energy bill. Folks, we have a ton of good news about the fourth stimulus check, so continue watching the video. The White House has just confirmed that state governments have turned down billions of dollars in crisis relief money. Many lawmakers and economists are urging the unused money be put towards a new round of stimulus checks. Now, since the start of the crisis, many people have fallen behind in their rent payments, and while the economy has improved since 2020, many people's personal financial situations have not. That means a lot of people still owe the landlords money and are at risk of being evicted until those debts are settled up. Now, the good news is that there's been a lot of money, with roughly $46 billion worth, available to struggling tenants in the form of federal rental assistance. That money was approved as part of the last 2 stimulus bills that were signed to law. Not only that, folks, but many states are still being offered additional rent relief funds. And what this means is that it doesn't mean they're accepting the money with open arms. Now, the Arkansas governor announced that the state would not be accepting most of the $146 million in rental assistance funds being offered to it. The reason boils down to the state's low employment rate and generally strong economy. Arkansas is not the first state to say no to rent relief. Recently, Nebraska rejected a round of aid as well. It's not just the strong state economy that prompted Arkansas to say no to that aid. Governor Hutchinson pointed to the fact that the state has rental assistance programs that were in place prior to the crisis for the purpose of promoting housing stability among residents. As such, he feels that taking federal funds isn't necessary. On the other hand, that move can be seen as a good thing. The governor could have said yes to that money, but instead acknowledges that the state isn't necessarily a needy recipient of it. So while many people have not recovered from the blow to the crisis, many are still struggling today, especially in the wake of higher living and gas costs. And so it's easy to see how a round of federal funding might help ease certain burdens for cash-strapped households with little to no money. With President Biden taking office, he found an ally in touting an agenda full of huge social investments. Despite President Biden and Sanders' pushes, those proposed social spending plans are still being negotiated on. Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema have emerged as the main roadblocks, and Bernie Sanders has frequently sparred with Manchin. In a new interview, Bernie Sanders again criticized Manchin and his role in stalling the Build Back Better. It's happening, everybody. Nancy Pelosi says that lawmakers are negotiating on how much the next stimulus bill will be worth. But GOP lawmakers would like to see big changes made to the bill before it finally is signed into law. Now, many of you guys can receive a fourth stimulus check, so continue watching this video. Democrats are pushing back on Nancy Pelosi's decision to reject the gas tax holiday, urging party leaders to reconsider a proposal as lawmakers take a beating over sky-high gas prices. The grumbling is especially pronounced among lawmakers facing tough re-election contests in November and who are eager to bring home a policy they say would provide tangible and immediate savings for people. Now, some Democratic representatives say that they're focused on things that would be helpful in the longer term and focused on the short term as well. Now, there's no exact plan to deal with high gas prices, but suspending the federal gas tax, which is currently 18.4 cents per gallon, would be an efficient and effective way to lower costs quickly. One Democratic representative is another supporter of the gas tax holiday. They have echoed that similar concerns, knowing the proposal is the most immediate way that they can deliver some much-needed relief. According to the Energy Information Administration, President Biden and Democratic leaders are scrambling for ways to rein in gas prices, as the average price per gallon sits well above $4. Pelosi has been considering the idea of a gas tax holiday. However, she has expressed her concerns with her colleagues. Pelosi acknowledged that some interest among Democrats for a tax holiday, but rejected the idea as both ineffective and too expensive. Democratic leaders are charging ahead with a different proposal, championed by Senator Maria Cantwell and Representative Frank. They said that would empower state and federal officials to
Thank you, Mayor Hill. Thanks. This is the Lordstown Lorraine fight. Congressman Capper, who's been making this fight longer than him or anybody. Marcy is, I believe, now the longest-serving woman in the history of the United States. Marcy, I'm going to talk about this for a second after listening to Jimmy Hart and what he said. I want to talk about what Marcy did and what we did together to fight some of the globalization that's done such damage to this community. I'll get to that in a second. Congressman Ryan, good to see you. I look forward. I've never and Tim Berga, Mike Nicely. Mike Nicely, I I mentioned to him, Mike is head of the building trades for Ohio.
Grew up in Lyon, Ohio, pretty similar to where I grew up in Mansfield. And Mike, now that we're gonna have 5,000 building trades jobs, building the Intel operation, Mike started wearing a tie when he got there. So I just put Sean Ryan, on the other hand, I don't know what the hell. But, we know how important, and Anthony's running for the state senate team, worked in my office, a veteran, just been a terrific officer. Lorraine is industrial America. I mean, you know what this community is. They started building ships here 200 years ago in this community. You know what this has been. And I think back, and this is what I want to talk about Marcy and Timbers. I think back, when I grew up in Mansfield, Ohio. We were in those old days of the same sports conferences, Lorraine and Lorraine Canyon, Elyria, and Findlay, and Marion, and the Buckeye Conference. Sandusky. But I used to walk the halls with hundreds of my graduating class, 450 kids in Mansfield. I walked the halls with the sons of Mayor Cranley and Teresa Federer. I used to walk the halls with the sons and daughters of auto workers who worked at Fisher Body, of machinists who worked at Ohio Brass, of rubber workers who worked at Mansfield Tire, of steel workers who worked at Empire Detroit. I'm leaving several out, and then hundreds of building trades, hundreds of millwrights and carpenters and electricians and pipe fitters and sheet metal workers that built that community, built all of these communities. And we know what happened. We know what corporate America did. Corporate America first, they shut down production in Lorraine and Elyria and Sandusky and Mansfield and Warren, and they looked for cheap labor in Alabama. And when that, in Arkansas and Tennessee, when that labor wasn't cheap enough, as they went under scavenger hunt around the world to look for low wages, the next thing they did is push Congress to pass NAFTA. My first year in Congress, Marcy had been there for 10 years. We led the opposition to that because we knew what NAFTA would do to this community and every community in the Midwest. And we almost defeated NAFTA. We fell short. And then they came back because Mexican labor in Mexico wasn't cheap enough for corporate America. They continued their scavenger hunt. They continued their move around the world to China, and we know what's happened. And that's in Ohio's paid that price for years in the form of lost jobs, lost opportunity. The whole country's paying the price now. We see it in higher prices. We see it what happened in the supply chain. We see how we've lost high-tech industries to China, to competitors like China. We give you